Good morning, everybody. I'm Gina Peebles, Assistant County Manager for Alachua County. On behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, thank you for investing an hour of your time to learn how to preside over your advisory board meetings. I'd also like to thank you for your volunteer efforts serving our advisory boards. I know that the County Commission really values and appreciates your recommendations and input. Today, it is my pleasure to introduce our facilitator, April Griffin. April served on the Alachua County School Board for 8 years, serving one term as chair. During her time on the school board, she earned the distinction of certified board member and served as chair for multiple committees for the Florida School Boards Association. She was also elected president of the Florida School Boards Association in 2017. Currently, she is a consultant working with the school boards and school board members across the state, presenting training and programs that help school boards maximize their leadership and governance while maintaining a focus on student achievement. Please join me in welcoming April Griffin.
Well, good morning. I thank you for inviting me and allowing me to speak to you, and thank you all for taking the time to come today, because this is important for the well-run, organized meeting that I think that everybody needs, and you get more accomplished that way. But really quickly, and I wasn't planning on, how many of you are committee chairmen for the county? Okay, and real quick, which committees? EDITE.
Economic Development Advisory Committee.
Okay, Economic Development Advisory Committee. Human Rights. Affordable Housing. Is that all? Yes, ma'am.
Recreation, open space.
Yes, and the recreation. And yes, ma'am.
The Historical Commission.
Historical Commission. Okay, there's another lady from the Historical Commission here. And now, are you a committee chair or a staff person? Staff. Okay, so all of the staff people in here, are you attached to a committee for the most part? Liaisons. I thank you for letting me know that word. So today we're going to hopefully talk a little bit about something that'll help the committees to move smooth. Before we get on parliamentary procedure, I wanted to talk about two things really quickly. And one is the role of the chairman, and the other is an agenda. And I think that both of these things are another way besides parliamentary procedure, especially the agenda, that can help have your committee meetings run smoothly. So the role of the chairman, I went backwards, I'm sorry, gotta go. Basically, the chair is the person that's supposed to pull everybody together and to make sure that the meetings are organized and that you accomplish something. How many of you have been in meeting after meeting after meeting and nothing gets accomplished? So the role of the chair is to make sure that that doesn't happen. Another role of the chair is to listen to everybody. A lot of times you're really invested in the committees that you're working on, and you know that you have the best ideas. But the chair's role is really to listen and to incorporate everybody's ideas, because that makes everything better. Somebody might come up with something that you've never thought about, and somebody else might come up with something that's so absurd that it makes you think about things in a different way. Now, the agenda. This is especially important for committee chairs. And I know that a lot of the time the liaisons and the chairs will work together, or the liaisons might put the agenda together. So this is important for both. The agenda is a control device. It tells you all these things: what you're going to discuss, the order that you're going to discuss them, who is going to be making presentations, and what their role is. Recommendations that are going to be considered, and eventually that we're going to leave, which is the most important thing for some people. I think also that I didn't put it on this slide, but I think that it might be helpful and this is the chair's discretion, to add on the agenda a part for citizen comment, or to tell the committee at the beginning of the meeting that the non-voting members, we will have a spot for you to ask questions and speak. I went to the Children's Trust meetings for a long time, and I would have something that would come up in a conversation or something that they were talking about that I didn't understand, and I didn't ever know when to speak. So it's really important. A lot of people come and they feel like they haven't been heard by our committees and our commissions and boards. So I think in today's climate, and the other thing is that you might find out something that you didn't know that is really pertinent to what you're dealing with. So I think that that's something else that we should be put on the agenda. I always think it's best practice to send the agenda ahead of time to the people that are on your committee for a couple of reasons, especially if you have a lot of stuff to talk about or something that you really have to get done. It's good to send them the agenda so that they can think of questions and comments and concerns ahead of time, and it makes the meeting time more valuable to everybody. When you start your committees, and it's you only have, like, if you're a year-long committee, I don't know how long you serve, the first meeting that you're serving as chair is when you set the groundwork. So that's when you say, I will be sending you the agenda a couple of days ahead. If you have any questions, contact me, or this is our liaison, and you give them the contact info, and it'll help you just to be more organized and prepared. So I found this cartoon, and a lot of times we think of the agenda as this. The first order of business is to set a timetable to plan the outline for the agenda. It's just a runaround. But it won't be if you use it in the way that it's supposed to be used. Do you have any questions about that? Okay, now what you're all here for is the thrilling subject of parliamentary procedure. Parliamentary procedure can help you. And if you've been to a meeting where chaos erupted, you will know that that's not beneficial and that's not what you want. So if you follow these things, now I'm going to go over a lot of stuff. 90% of what I give you today, you're never going to use. Because it's just. But if it ever comes up, at least you can say, hey, that lady with the black and polka dotted shirt kind of told us something about this, and I'm going to give you a sheet of paper to help you. So it's formal procedures that are used by an assembly, and it's the rules of democracy. So that makes it sound even better. 95% of the boards and organizations that use parliamentary procedure use Robert's rules. The county commission, the city commission, the school board, they have an attorney they might have their own parliamentarian. The school board uses its board attorney as the parliamentarian. What I learned for parliamentary procedure and how to conduct a meeting, I learned at church, because I'm Southern Baptist. And we had these things on Wednesday night called meetings, business meetings. And you always had the parliamentarians set the rules. And it also in the garden club, the ladies in the garden club follow Robert's rules, and they have a parliamentarian. So it's just best practice. What they do. I'm sorry I keep looking, but I haven't memorized this. So they ensure the rights of the majority, guarantee the rights of the minority, defend individual members' rights, safeguard members that are absent from the meeting. And these lovely people are the minute people. So They know that the people that are absent from the meeting like to know what's going on. Thank you. You treat one item at a time. That's how it keeps order. One item at a time. Fairness, it extends fairness and courtesy to all, and the majority rules. There's all of the votes, the majority rule. There's 5 types of motions. We're going to go through all of these. Aren't y'all happy about that? The main motions are the business. That's what brings the business to the committee or to the board. Subsidiary motions amend or pertain to the main motion. Okay? Privileged motions are special matters. We're going to go over them all in a minute. It's not related to the main motion. It's ancillary. Incidental relate different to the business at hand. And motions that bring a matter back up. If you didn't get to it or you forgot or whatever, are the last one. Okay, main motions. The purpose is to introduce ideas to the group. And these are the things that that happen in a main motion. Only one motion at a time. So you need to keep the business talking about what you're talking about at the time, and don't let people go down rabbit holes. And you can say, we need to bring it back to the motion or to the matter at hand. It does require a second. So if you make a motion, it requires a second. It can be changed. It's amenable. It can be discussed. It's debatable. And the majority vote wins. Now with the main motions, one of the keys is to keep them positive. I'll give you an example. If you're in a committee and you decide that you need more information, somebody can move that we ask staff to go and get more information for us. So you'd say, I move that we ask staff to gather more information. You would not say, I move that we not ask staff to get more information, because if it gets voted down, it's unclear exactly what you're doing. So if you move to get staff to bring more, and somebody says, that's ridiculous, we have everything we need, and they vote it down, you know you're not doing it. So anyway, that might have been a little bit confusing. Was it confusing, what I said? No? Okay. It made sense in my mind. You have to say it this way, I move that or I move to, when you're making a motion. So what you have in your PowerPoints is you have what each motion does, how it's done, and then you have an example of how to say it. Because that's what gets people in a little bit over their heads. The steps in handling the motions, this is for the chairs. The committee member will make a motion. Another committee member seconds it. And sometimes the chair has to say, do I have a second? Does the motion have a second? The chairman restates the motion. That's important, so that everybody knows what you're talking about, what you're voting on. The members debate or talk about the motion. Chair calls for a vote, and then the chair announces the vote. So if the vote, they say the motion passes 4-5. No, 5-4. Or the motion passes unanimously. Some commissions and some big boards say how everybody voted in the thing, but I don't think that your committees need to do that. Any question? No?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
what happens if the motion doesn't carry? We say it that way?
Yes, the motion was voted down,
Or no? Thank you.
or the motion didn't pass. And I always think it's important if either way you say the motion didn't pass 0-4 or 0, so that for the people that are taking the minutes, if there is anybody from your committee, they know how many people voted each way. Amendments. Amendments are to modify the main motion. They have to be related to the topic that's being discussed. So it has to relate to the motion that's been made. It does require a second. So if somebody has an idea to change what the motion says, if nobody seconds it, it dies. It can be changed again. So then you have an amendment to the amendment to the amendment to the amendment. Every amendment you have to vote on. It can be debated. Majority vote rules. You cannot interrupt the speaker. That's where civility comes in. So if you have another amendment that you'd like to propose to the motion, you cannot interrupt the person who is speaking at the time. That's the chair's job to make sure that you stick with one person, and then does anybody have any amendments or whatever to make sure that all chaos doesn't break out. And it can be reconsidered. So if nobody seconds your motion, your amendment, and it dies, and later on you can make it again and it can be reconsidered. Examples. The motion on, oh yes ma'am.
So if you, every time you amend the amendment, does the amended amendment have to be seconded too?
Okay, she asked, I forgot to say repeat the question because we're on tape. If every amendment has to be seconded, and every seconded amendment has to be voted on before you can move. Yes, ma'am.
Does the original, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Anyone can make an amendment to the original motion that was proposed, or does it have to be accepted by the proposer, the initial proposer?
Okay, she's asking if anybody can make an amendment to the motion, or if it has to be accepted by the proposer of the motion. Anybody can make an amendment. It has to have a second.
So not necessarily the proposer could make a motion, and then everyone else could just take it away?
Correct. Yes, but every amendment has to be seconded, and every amendment has to be voted on. So that's why it's important for the chair to make sure that if the amendment gets amended, if the motion gets amended like 4 or 5 times, gets voted on, that everybody understands each time what is being voted on. It can get very hairy, and so you have to have somebody keeping track. I would hope, and I don't know this for sure, that most committees would not have to deal with multiple amendments. It does happen in board meetings, and that's where your parliamentarian, your staff attorney, board attorney, whatever, keeps up with what you're doing. But if you have to vote on every one, it has to be seconded. Yes, sir.
It is the proper procedure to ask the chairman if you wish to propose an amendment?
It would be best practice for the chair to recognize anybody that would like to speak, because remember, you can't speak over the person, so you need to be recognized.
Recognized by the chairman when to propose an amendment.
Correct. He's asking if you should be recognized by the chair. I say that's best practice. You had something.
I think you answered my question.
Oh,
which
good.
was the original proposer of the original motion does not have to approve the amended motion.
No, sir. The original person who makes the motion does not have to approve the amendments, but the amendment has to be seconded by somebody else in the group and voted on. Many times, the person who proposed the amendment could say, I will accept that, and then, it just goes into the motion. Look at the examples here. The motion on the floor is that the committee attend a county commission meeting. Okay? Somebody moves, Mr. Chair, I move to amend the motion by inserting the August 6th after attend, so the motion would read that the XYZ committee attend the August 6th county commission meeting. So if we had that amendment on the floor, then we would have to vote. And I would say, so we're voting on the amendment that would change it to put after 6, into the motion. So it would read, the XYZ committee will attend the August 6th County Commission meeting. All those in favor? All those opposed? So if that's it, then we have to go back and vote on the motion again. It gets complicated. Yes, ma'am.
So you're just voting on whether or not to put August 6th into the
Correct.
motion?
Yes.
And then you have to, okay.
And then after we agreed to put it in there, then you say, okay, now we're going to vote on the motion as amended, and that's what it is. Yes, sir.
So sometimes in a very consensus-oriented group, as a shortcut to this, someone will say, would the maker of the motion agree to add this?
Correct.
And the maker of the motion says yes, everybody's nodding their heads. Is that appropriate?
Yes, sir. What he asked is in a committee, could the person ask and the maker of the motion say, yes, I agree? That is perfect. The key is to make sure everybody knows what they're voting on if that happens. So it doesn't have to be complicated, but oftentimes it can get complicated if you don't go in order. Does that make sense?
So in that case of what you just described, if then the maker of the motion says no, then he still has the opportunity to
Correct.
present it as an amendment.
Yes, yes, sir.
With the rest of the group.
If the maker of the motion says no, then a second would make everybody be able to vote on it. Okay? Okay, good questions. Subsidiary motions. These are motions that affect the main motion. To lay it on the table, previous question, limit or extend debate time limits, which is an important one that people don't use, just saying. Postpone definitely, refer to a committee. Amend and postpone indefinitely, okay? So to lay on the table, the purpose of this one is to postpone action, and it could be for a lot of things. It could be that you need more information. It could be that people aren't comfortable at the time. It could be that somebody on your committee that's key to answering this question or with information isn't there. All of those things. It has to be brought off of the table by the close of the next meeting or it goes away. So this one is important for people to remember to bring it back. It does require a second. It's not changeable. It's not debatable. And the majority rules on this. You cannot interrupt a speaker. So an example, I moved to lay this on the table, lay this motion on the table. So if we went back to the example with going to the commission meeting, you would say, Mr. Chair, I move that we lay the motion to attend the August 6th commission meeting on the table. And then somebody would second it. If nobody seconds it, you keep going. Questions?
So why wouldn't you want them to debate that, talk about it? Here's why. Well, I don't agree.
This is used to postpone the debate and to make the matters so the meeting moves quicker. It still requires a second. So if somebody else wants to keep talking about it, they don't have to second it. So it would you're going to bring it back. So it's not like you're not going to, unless you forget, but you're going to bring it back. So I don't think that in most committee meetings, most of the time, this would be used if you don't have enough information to make a vote, or if you figure that you need to think about it a little bit longer before you vote.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, like, if they want to lay that on the table, maybe they need to check their schedules before they vote on August 6th.
Correct. That would be, so she was saying that it could be that they needed to check their calendars before they vote on the next meeting. Yes, sir.
Well, it's going to be in the minutes, so it's unlikely we'll get about it.
It is in the minutes, but that doesn't mean that you're that you might not remember it.
We have to approve the minutes.
Correct.
Meetings.
Well, and your parliamentarian or whoever's keeping you, on track, your liaison would remember that you need to bring it back. Yes, sir.
Is it the next meeting or the next meeting before?
If you don't have a quorum, you can't vote. So I would think that you would need to make sure that it was at a meeting that you could vote. I don't know the answer to that question. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
If you have a tabled motion, should it be on the next agenda?
A tabled motion should be on the next agenda. Yes. Previous question. This is forces an immediate vote on the motion. It does require a second. It's not debatable. It's not changeable. This requires a 2/3 majority, not just a simple majority. And you still cannot interrupt another speaker. So the example would be, Madam President, I move the previous question. I call for the previous question. If people are talking and talking and talking and saying the same thing about the same thing about the same thing, that's when you use this. If you feel like people are saying, just going on and on and on, all of you have been in meetings like this, then you can call the question. And it still requires a second. So somebody else has to want to vote on it too. Yes, sir.
This is my least this is the part I like the least. I've seen it used where people will prematurely call the question to stifle a minority debate that people haven't really talked about yet to make
Right.
it important to the issue. And it just seems, if it's after 3 hours of talking, sure. But if it's after 10 minutes of talking and someone wants to win the motion badly to stifle debate, I've seen it used that way.
He's just said that he's seen this motion used to stifle debate. And yes, it can. I would think that, in the meetings that I called for the question, the same people were saying the same things over and over and over again. And it wasn't leading anything to the debate. So I understand where that could be, but it needs a second. So it's somebody else has to agree.
The majority wants to move it along quickly, and so
Well-
if they get a second, they get their 2/3 vote, but they prevent the minority from being heard.
Correct. And that is one of the downfalls of this particular one. There is a way to bring it back. Yes, sir.
In practicality, how is that enforced if someone's going on and on and on, and you raise your hand? How do you practically give the attention of the chairman to that's how it's used, right? If somebody's been talking for 20 minutes, they've had it now.
Or if the same three people keep saying the same thing over and over again. In my opinion, I would not use this to stifle the people's talking that are in the citizenry. The people that are on the board sometimes say the same thing over and over again. But it's up to you, and it's up to the chair to control the meeting. So how do you get? You can raise your hand, or at the beginning of your time together, the chair can set the guidelines. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. That kind of thing to help. Most boards have buttons, and the light comes on, and if the chair chooses to see the lights.
So the chairman could interrupt the person that's
Correct.
gone on and on and on and recognize the person that wants to call the motion.
Correct. Yes. So he was saying the chair controls the meeting, so the chair can interrupt another speaker. The person who's making the motion can't interrupt. So you keep order. Yes, sir.
Can the chair encourage somebody to call the question?
I would think that would not be a good idea, but I don't know the answer to that question. I really don't. I can find out.
Not a good idea.
Civility and keeping order and keeping things running smoothly. Remember the first slide that you have, the chairman should be soliciting and actively listening. I would think that what you suggested, if the chair calls a question, that it would promote that not happening. Limit or extend the debate times. This is the maker of the motion specifies the amount of time, the number of speakers that can debate the motion. And these examples, Madam Chair, I move that we limit debate on the motion to 3 discussions for the motion and 3 discussions against the motion. Or, Madam Chair, I move to limit debate to a maximum of 5 minutes. People don't use this very often, but it could help, especially amongst some boards where you can limit debate. So we're going to have 3 people speak in favor of it, 3 people speak opposed, or we're going to, we have a time-sensitive matter that we need to take care of. We're going to give 20 minutes to this topic. And the maker of the motion needs to specify exactly what, and then somebody has to keep time. Postpone definitely allows the motion on the floor to be deferred for a different day, a different meeting, or until after a certain event. So this one is used if you just want to, like the example. I move to postpone this motion until the December regular meeting. And that requires a second. It can be changed. It can be debated. Majority votes. And you can interrupt the speaker on this one. Refer it to a committee. Send a pending question to a smaller group or to staff or to whoever you need to ask questions of. You can specify the committee powers. We send this to the budget committee and ask that they find a way to do this with $500. So you can be very specific. It does require a second. It can be debated, and it can be changed in the course of your debate. And the majority votes, the majority rules. So the example is, I move that we refer this motion to the budget committee to report back to the assembly, to report back to the committee. Postpone indefinitely, you ain't never going to talk about it again. It's just gone. It does require a second. It's not, you can't change it, and it's not debatable. Majority votes. You cannot interrupt another speaker, and it can be reconsidered only if it passes. So if you vote it down, you can bring this to kill the main motion again. You can, as long as, and it doesn't come back. I move to postpone this motion indefinitely. I don't know when you would use this, but it's there if you need it.
Just a question, you said it was not debatable, but it's said debatable.
I'm sorry, it's not changeable, but you do talk about it as debatable. Thank you for catching that for me. Privileged motions are the third kind of motions. They fix the time to adjourn. They tell you to adjourn. They tell you you're in recess or ask for a recess. A question of privilege or orders of the day. So we'll go through these. To arrange a time for the next meeting, or to, in 30 minutes, this meeting, I move that we end this meeting at 5:30 so we can all go to so-and-so. That would be a motion. It has to have a second. It's debatable. It can be changed to majority votes, and you can interrupt the speaker. I move that we adjourn and we reassemble on October 3rd at 3 p.m. in the school cafeteria. Well, I took this from a school board, but in the county commission chambers or wherever. So it's very specific. She's free. To propose to immediately end the meeting, seconds required. It's not debatable, not changeable. Majority vote, and it can't be reconsidered. So if somebody says, I move to adjourn, and nobody seconds it, the meeting keeps going. If somebody says, I move to adjourn, somebody seconds it, done. So this one is sometimes a good way to solve part of the problem about too long a meeting and people going on and on and on. Most of the time, when you're done is when people call for adjournment. It doesn't happen before then, I would think. Recess allows for a short break in the meeting. If things get really hot and heated in your meeting and people need to cool down, you can ask for a recess, a 5-minute recess. And then you would have to start the meeting all over again when you come back. It does need a second. It is changeable, so somebody could say, what about 10 minutes? I mean, what can you do in 5 minutes? Which you can do a lot in 5 minutes, by the way. It requires a majority vote. You cannot interrupt another speaker. Do you see the flow here where interrupting is not good or not allowed? And you have to specify the length of time in your motion. So it's not an indefinite, it's a set time that you're going to come back. Question of privilege allows people to ask for changes, like to the temperature, for somebody to restate their idea or clarify. Motion to be explained, that can help when you're doing all the amendments. Repeat discussion, and anything that helps the meeting run smoother. So it doesn't need a second. It can't be changed. It's not debatable. There's no vote. It's the chair's decision to allow it or not. And you can interrupt another speaker. So examples. I asked for the question of privilege, and then the chair would say, state your question. And then the committee member said, it's hot in here. Can we turn down the air conditioner? And the chair says, no, we're going to sweat it out. The chair would probably say, yes, let's see if somebody can fix that for us. I asked for a question of privilege. The chair says, state your question. And she says, can we have committee member X repeat the motion as amended? So it clarifies things. And then the chair says, no, you don't need it. We've already heard it 72 times. We're just going to vote. But normally they'd say, please repeat the motion as amended. Best practice. Incidental motions. Parliamentary inquiry. Are we doing this right? A point of order and division of the assembly. Now, parliamentary, you can interrupt. Or did we vote on that motion? Did we vote on the amendment? You clarify where we are in the process? State your question. This is the civil way to do it. Parliamentary inquiry. State your question. What's the vote required to limit debate? Y'all remember? 2/3. Because it's right there. I just thought, I thought I was really remembering all this. It's 2/3 vote, and because it limits the rights of the members. So this is just a clarifying thing. Point of order does not require a second. It's used when a member thinks that the rules are not following the proper procedure. It's not debatable. It's not changeable. The chair decides the verdict. So this is where you have to keep up. And you can interrupt another speaker. So point of order, state your point. And then after the committee member says what they want to say, the chair would say your point is well taken, or your point is not well taken. So it's up to the chair. Division of the assembly. I've seen this happen at the National School Boards Association, and it was not fun, I'll tell you that. The purpose is called forces an immediate revote by show. So you stand up, you put your hand up, no secret ballots on this one. It does not require a second. I would think that none of your committees will ever have this happen. I would hope. It's not changeable, not debatable. No votes needed. All it takes is one person to say, I call for a roll call vote, and you have to do it. And after it's called for, the decision that it has, everybody has to know what the outcome was. I mean, what's the point if you don't? Anyway, I doubt that you would ever have this happen. And if you do have it happen, it's very important for you to make sure that you know you can do this the right way. Yes, sir.
I would agree in these advisory committees, but I assume this is something that occurs with regularity, like in the county commission board meetings?
I don't know. I don't know. This has never happened at a school board meeting that I've been in.
So it's never
For 8
hard
years.
For the public to understand who feels what about a particular issue and who votes and what?
For school board votes, you have to vote. It's in the Constitution. That's one of the things that school board members have. I don't know what the law says about county and city commission, but you know how everybody votes in a school board vote.
Our commission rules, if you're present, you vote.
Okay, if you're present, you vote.
Unless you have a legal reason that.
Right, and there's a whole process you have to go through to, he was saying that in the county commission, if you're present, the rule is you vote.
And if you say nothing in our rules, you count as a yes vote.
But see, in school board rules, you aren't allowed to say nothing.
Yeah, ours just clarified in case
Yeah.
the commissioner ever said, I'm just not gonna say anything.
That doesn't happen in the school board. Sometimes even there's some things that you've debated and your vote might change, but you have to vote. There's no way of getting out of it if you're a school board member.
We have commissioners that
You-
wanted to protest and not vote. We told them we're gonna count you as yes.
You,
That's our rules.
yeah. Well, that's great, but not for school board members. The roll call vote would be for I would think for larger assemblies where you do the secret ballot and it's 4-4, or the vote's really close, and you want people to show how they vote in a large assembly. Did you have a
Yeah,
question? Yes, sir.
I just had a question related to that. So in these committee meetings, do the members have to vote?
In the committee meetings, do the members have to vote? I don't know the answer to that.
So I think unless you have a conflict of interest, you have to vote.
Okay. So,
And it's my understanding also and this could be old news or current, but we always do it, that you state, if there was any dissent, you state who dissented and who was
Okay.
positive.
so the question was if in the committees, committee members have to vote. And I don't know the answer, but the answer was given that committee members do have to vote unless they have a conflict of interest, and that the chair would recount the vote. That's best practice. I mean, would say 4 people were for it, 1 person was opposed. That's what you were.
Who they were.
Oh, and who they were.
We do
Okay.
that.
Okay. Any other questions?
So we changed, you said that that's rarely done, we've sort of gone the other direction and it needs to be done. My point is that the public, I think, has the right to understand who's on these committees and who's voting for what. I mean, this is out in the open, isn't it? And not-
Yes, sir. You asked if this is a practice that is done often. I don't know with the county committees how often this would occur. I don't.
At the end was that you suggested it be done.
Well, their best practice in the committee that they serve on, it's one of their rules that everybody votes and that the chair states who voted which way. So that's something that you have to ask your staff liaison or what the practice of your committee is. I don't know.
What I heard was that only the dissenting votes needed to be specifically stated
Well, actually, if it's not unanimous, then we state.
Okay.
who the dissenting votes were.
Eat both ways.
Because the minutes have
Well,
the
the members
entire
are present.
committee there, that who's present, you could do one or the other, but we usually,
Okay.
I don't remember if we state each one, we probably do.
Usually our
dissenting votes was, and you know the other members voted.
Okay.
So we'll say it carried 3-2 with Commissioner Byerly and Pinkerton voting no.
Okay, yes, sir.
What committee was that? I'm just-
Well, he's talking about the county board.
That this-
What committee are you? Land Conservation Board.
Because usually our commissioners, if they're objecting to something, they want it out there that they voted against it or in favor of it.
So. Okay? Motions that bring back a motion before the assembly, again, is the fifth kind. To reconsider, rescind, or to take from the table. Remember, if you place a motion on the table, it has to be taken off the table at the next meeting. The reconsider is to reevaluate a decision that was made earlier. Requires a second. It's not changeable. You can debate it. Majority vote. You cannot interrupt the speaker. The bottom thing is the important one about this one. It can only be made by a person who voted on the winning side of the motion. So the people that are on the losing side can't keep bringing it back up. But the person on the winning side of the vote can bring it back up for reconsideration. Continued. Motions that can be reconsidered are all of these. Main motions, amendments, refer to the committee, postpone. Definitely, that means you put a time which you're going to bring it back, and the previous question. So all of those things can be reconsidered. In the example, I move to reconsider the motion to attend the August 6th County Commission meeting. Now, if I was a one that voted for that, I can bring it back. Rescind, you repeal a previous motion. It does require a second. It's debatable, can be changed. 2/3 majority vote again. You cannot interrupt another speaker. And an example, I move that we rescind the motion to attend the August 6th County Commission meeting. So I won on the motion, but I'm going to ask that we not go. To take it from the table, you have to take it off the table to vote on it, and you have to do it at the next meeting or the motion dies. Requires a second. It's not changeable, not debatable, majority votes to do it, and you cannot interrupt another speaker. So the example would be I move to take the motion that reads to attend the August 6th County Commission meeting from the table. And then to withdraw a motion. Must be done by the person making the motion. So I made a motion, and everybody, I know that it probably won't pass, or I hear that there's some real questions about it, or I can withdraw my motion. And I move to withdraw the motion. So we have some minutes for questions. If you have any more questions, I mean, the only one that I think that I did not know the answer for was the question that you had about the division of the assembly and why you wouldn't want to do that. And I've been thinking about it as I talk, and the public does have the right to know what goes on in the committees and public record, and to be transparent with the decisions are made, especially the committees that are dealing with a lot of money and budget. I would think that whoever the chair of that committee is would do their due diligence to make sure that everybody understood the motions being made, the amendments that have been brought forward, and the way people are voting. That's the chair's job. And it would be in the minutes of the committee meeting. The division of the assembly is exactly what it says. It divides the assembly. You're calling for an immediate vote, and most of the time in your committees, people are already going to know who voted because the chair's doing their due diligence with making sure that everybody knows. Does that make sense? But in large bodies, like the National School Boards Association, when you have 800 members and the votes are secret ballot, you know, you vote by ballot and it's really close, calling for a division of the House makes everybody have to stand up and vote, and you can see exactly the numbers either way. Yes, sir.
Just thinking of, you mentioned Robert's rules earlier.
Yes, sir.
The county commission has adopted in its advisory board guidelines particular publication for the use of parliamentary procedures, which is, used to be Sturgis, and there's an updated version of that.
Okay, so you said that the county commission in their procedures for the committees, their guidelines has adopted not Robert's rules, but Sturgis for, and I would propose to you that it can't be that much different. You know, the key, shorter. Okay, so we would have gotten out of here in 15 minutes. So the main thing for you to remember is the parliamentary procedure helps the meetings run smoothly. You deal with one item at a time and make sure that everybody understands what you're voting on and how you're moving forward. Yes, sir.
I'm interested in the part where it says, here you cannot interrupt the speaker, and here you can interrupt the speaker. And, I mean, how does that work? I mean, interrupting the speaker sounds kind of rude. I mean, what's going on?
Exactly. I think what that means is you have to be recognized to speak. So if you want to say something, raise your hand, or the chair has to recognize you. You can't just start yelling at the person or speaking over, which is the part of decorum and civility that we want to get back to in our meetings. So
How is that interrupting the speaker? I don't know.
well, it's cutting whoever is speaking off. That's what you can't talk over somebody.
No, I'm saying where it says you can. I mean, you can interrupt the speaker. How does that
How
happen?
do you do that?
I guess you're recognized by the chair.
But you can't talk over somebody or just.
Let me find one that says you can. Cannot. Can interrupt. Division of the assembly. That's when you call an immediate vote and you're standing up, so you're cutting off somebody. So it would seem like you might be considered a little rude by some people in the assembly by cutting them off.
The speaker doesn't have to recognize you're standing up and doing this?
No, it does not require a second. You can stand up and say, I call for a roll call vote right then.
And you don't have to be recognized by the chair in doing that?
Mm.
Just do it.
So I have a sheet of paper that is like everything on one sheet of paper to tell you what to say, if it can interrupt or not, if it needs a second, if there's debate, if it could be everything on one sheet of paper. So I'll pass those out. I think I probably need more on this side.
I
Do
have
you
a
need
question rescinding the motion. If you make a motion and there isn't a second yet, can you rescind it at that point, or does it require a second prior to being able to rescind it because it hasn't been taken up?
So if you don't have a second, it fails for lack of a
Yes.
second.
I understand, but if you say something and maybe there's somebody that wants to latch onto that with a second, do you regret what you said and so you don't really want a second on it? Do you have the ability to rescind it prior to the second?
The rescission, it says it needs a 2/3 majority vote. So you can say, I move that we rescind but it still has to be voted on.
But is that only after it gets voted on? Like the rescind is like, you made a motion, you voted on it. and-
Oh, you mean to take it off, that you don't want to make the motion
Yeah, let's say
anymore?
that I make the motion,
Okay.
Let's adjourn.
Okay.
Oh, I want to
That's-
rescind that. Do you have to do you have to wait until a second has already been made before you rescind it? Because it hasn't been taken up by the committee?
I don't know. I don't
You
know the
you may
answer.
regret what you said.
Right.
And want to rescind it before a second.
I changed my mind. I don't want to make that motion.
So isn't that a withdrawal?
It would be a withdrawal.
Our board has always allowed you withdrawals.
Okay.
Our commissioners have always said, I don't want to make that anymore, and it's kind of, that's a withdrawal.
Any other questions that I won't be able to answer?
Because otherwise you end up arguing
Yes, sir.
against your own motion.
Can I ask this gentleman, does Sturgis change any of what we just got handed out here?
I don't know.
Look it up.
I don't know. I did say that 95% use Robert's rules, so y'all are in the 5% that choose to be different. Okay? Yes, sir.
Any issues with a chair?
I'm
Any
sorry?
issues with a chair?
A chair making a motion? No, I don't think so. If it requires a second.
Well, I thought a chair can't make
Most of the,
Our board rules don't allow the chair.
your board rules don't allow the chair. I would think that in the most of the time, you're so busy running the meeting and keeping up with everything that you don't, or you could say, do I hear a motion that we adjourn? Second, okay, that's it. Thank you all very much for your time.
Call the vote. We didn't vote.
Oh, that's true. You didn't vote. But I hope that this helped a little bit and you're clearer on some things.